Okay, good morning all of you. Any questions from yesterday's class?
Okay, let me just add a few comments. See, in yesterday's second problem, you saw a non-rectangular section. In practice, you may come across this type of sections, maybe because of several reasons. One is architectural. Now, accordingly, using the concepts, you have to analyze. The expressions are not there in the code, but you have to do the analysis as per the basic concepts. Okay.
Any questions from assignment? Have you started attempting these problems 1, 2, and 4? And if you have not done, it is too late. You need to start doing it. In today's class, we'll be covering the other types of like a T-beam analysis, T section, as well as doubly reinforced rectangular section. And any questions? So there was a question here yesterday for slab problem, okay? Considering 1 meter width of slab, that is 1000 mm width of the slab. I mentioned, or I told you, explained to you that the slab can be analyzed similar to a this rectangular section beam with reinforcement on the tension side, except that width you need to select as 1000 mm or 1 meter width. And when you select 1 meter width, how do you get the reinforcement? How do you get the steel amount? That depends on the spacing of the rebars. So this is the this is how you will be calculating whatever equation is shown here. And in this problem, the spacing of the rebars, 12 mm rebars, is at 120 mm center to center. So I'm going to find out in 1 meter width how many rebars are there, multiply with cross-sectional area. Okay, then I'm going to get the total area of steel in 1 meter width. Please note that yesterday there was a question. This 1000 divided by 120, it is coming out to be 8.33. What should be the number of bars I need to take? Please note that at every stage you don't need to round it off to the nearest integer because we are here basically what in slab we have the reinforcement at a spacing of 120 mm center to center, and we are taking a 1 meter width of this slab, and this reinforcement is smeared out. This reinforcement is smeared out over 1 meter width. Okay, so you don't need to just take this separately, 1000 divided by 120, and try to find what it is. It is over 8.33. Whether I need to round it off to the higher side 9 or 8, you don't need to think. Just take this 1000 divided by 120 and multiply with cross-sectional area of the bar and get the final amount of steel area. And if you want, you can round it off at this stage. Instead of 141.66 mm square, you can round it off to 142 mm square. Okay? Any questions here? And
so I think there was one question, whether if the moment is not given, how do we know whether the section is cracked or uncracked? It's an analysis problem. Typically, the moment will be given. Given means it may not be given to you, but you have to calculate based on the load that comes on the slab and the support conditions. Now, for a design situation, there will be a moment demand, and invariably you will consider a cracked section, because as uncracked, the slab will not be able to carry much moment. We are placing reinforcement so that it can go beyond cracking. And hence, in a design problem, you will always analyze using a cracked section. Okay.
One more thing, please note that what we are actually here after, here we want to find what is the capacity of this section. Okay, what is the capacity of this section? So capacity of this section is what is the section, the capacity when either steel reaches its permissible limit or concrete reaches its permissible limit. Okay, so that's why whenever you are interested, or here you can see here, read the problem statement for this problem, particular problem slab case. Find the safe load per square meter of slab. So it's going to depend on whether the capacity is going to be dictated by from tension point of view or compression point of view. So we will be analyzing it using the cracked section. Okay, whenever you are asked to find the moment of resistance of the section, or the moment capacity of the section, or load carrying capacity of the section, then you will be using the cracked section. And suppose instead of that, if some moment is given, some amount of load is given to you, and you are asked to analyze for these stresses in concrete and steel, as is the case here. Please note that in the assignment problem, it is asked, first problem, you are asked to find the safe moment of resistance of the section. Then you need to use the cracked section. Okay. And if you see the second problem, let's see the second problem. And here also you are asked to find the safe moment of resistance. So here also you will be using cracked section. And what about the, you can see here, the fourth one. Determine allowable bending moment and stresses in steel and concrete corresponding to this moment. Allowable bending moment is nothing but the maximum load, the maximum moment capacity. At that point, what are going to be the stresses? When you are calculating, by the time you calculate this allowable bending moment, at that time you will be knowing whether steel is going to reach its permissible limit first or concrete is going to reach its permissible limit first. Irrespective of whichever is going to reach its permissible limit first, taking that, you calculate stress in the other one. Like if concrete reaches its permissible limit first, then you try to find, using that value, you try to find the stress in the steel. Or if steel reaches permissible limit first, you try to find the stress in the concrete when steel reaches permissible limit. Okay, so that's why I told you yesterday, this equation, whatever equation I pointed out to you, that is very, very important. Let me show you once again that equation. Just 1 second. Let me. This one, this equation. For transformed section, stress distribution, based on that, you have this equation. Sigma prime ST divided by M divided by sigma prime CBC is equal to D minus N divided by D. So you make use of this equation, and if steel reaches its permissible limit first, by the time you come to this equation, or by the time you come to this stage, you will be knowing what is neutral axis depth. So you find corresponding stress in concrete. Or if concrete reaches its permissible limit, taking permissible stress in concrete, you can back calculate what is the stress in steel. Okay. Any questions?
See, there was one more question. You can read the questions regarding the spacing of the bars. See, the spacing of the bars is always mentioned as center to center. You see the notation C/C. It means center to center. Sometimes it is also written as OC. OC means on center. Hence, the space that is taken by the bars is not a consideration. It is the center to center spacing that we are working with. However, under certain situations, we may be interested in the clear spacing between the bars. That is for the concreting purpose. if the clear spacing between the bars get very small, then the concrete will not flow during concreting. Aggregates may get stuck. And hence, there are certain detailing requirements which is based on the clear spacing. But for analysis, we use the center to center spacing.
Okay, any further questions? So yesterday I actually tried to explain or explained you other types of sections, not necessarily the rectangular section. Okay, a trapezoidal section and also a rectangular section in which some part of the portion concrete is not there. So irrespective of whatever section, you use these basic concepts. Like let me once again emphasize or bring to your attention those points. First step is, given a section, irrespective of whatever shape of the section is, okay. And if you are good in this elementary calculus, you will be able to find the shape of any irregular geometry or area of any irregular geometry. You will be able to find the area. So using those concepts, you can find the area of any irregular shape. Okay. So now coming to this one, flexural analysis. In flexural analysis, first step is to find the neutral axis depth. Okay. How do you get the neutral axis depth? You need to take the moment of area in compression. It is better always to take, because we want to find neutral axis depth. We take it that moment with respect to the neutral axis. So moment of area in compression with respect to the neutral axis equated to moment of area in tension with respect to the neutral axis. That is the first step, irrespective of whatever shape of the beam or cross section of the beam is. So once you have that, you get the neutral axis depth. And then please note that we are currently actually following working stress method. So the assumption, first assumption which is given in Annexure B of IS 456 is plane sections remain plane before and after bending. That means strain distribution is going to be linear. So strain value at the neutral axis is going to be 0, and it's going to be varying linearly above the neutral axis and also below the neutral axis. So based on that, you are going to get the strain distribution diagram for that particular section, which is just a straight line. Okay. So once you get the strain distribution diagram, from that you can get the stress distribution diagram. Again, stress strain relation is linear. That is also one of the assumptions which I showed you in Annexure B of IS 456 for working stress method. We are going to consider only the linear part of the stress strain curve for both for concrete as well as steel. So based on that, you are going to get the stress distribution. And stress distribution you need to get for the transformed section. Okay. Because we have here a composite section, or we have two materials. One is concrete, another is steel. It is always better to convert into like for mathematical simplicity, we are going to convert into an equivalent section made of only single material, concrete. Anyway, these are the basic steps. These steps remains the same. Anyway, if you have any questions, you let us know. Otherwise, let's proceed further. And here in this example, which is projected, you have a T section. Okay, the section of the beam is in the form of a T. So you please take a note of the important points in this problem here. Please note down in your notebook, because for better understanding, I cannot flip or back and forth go between the slides. If you have that information in front of you, it will be easy for you to understand. Take a note of this T-beam section, and please note that this part is called flange, and this part is called web. Flange of T section and web of T section. Okay, flange width is 1200 mm, and flange thickness is 100 mm. And effective depth is measured from the top fiber, top edge or the top of the flange to the center of the reinforcement that is provided to take care of tension. So that is effective depth, that is 600, and the total amount of tensile steel that is given 2000 mm square, and the width of the web is 300 mm. Did you note down these dimensions and cross-sectional dimensions, and as well as the area of steel? So this is the section we need to analyze. So what do you mean by analysis here? Find stress in concrete and steel where a particular moment is applied. What is that moment? 150,000 Newton meter or 150 kilonewton meter. Moment is applied on this kind of section, which is having a T shape. All the geometric details are given, and also area of steel is given. What are the stresses in concrete and steel? And permissible stress in concrete is given. Permissible stress in steel is given. Please note that whatever problems we are looking, in all the problems, the analysis is done both with FE250 as well as FE415 to show you to demonstrate the behavior, if at all there is a difference in behavior of the beam, and how that behavior is changing when I change the grade of steel. That is the intention of doing this. So permissible stress in steel, for Fe250 steel it is 140 Newton per mm square, and Fe415 steel it is 230 Newton per mm square. And also, not only finding the stresses given a particular moment, you also need to find what is the moment carrying capacity or moment of resistance of this T section, as we have done for the other types of sections. And modular ratio is 13. Yesterday I mentioned to you, whenever sigma CBC is 7 Newton per mm square, modular ratio, if you round it off to the nearest integer, it's going to be 13. Okay, any questions here? So now with whatever I just started this class, so here we have a T section. We don't need to worry about it, the shape of the section. The first the thing we need to do is to find the neutral axis depth. To find the neutral axis depth, we need to take the moment of area in compression with respect to the neutral axis equated to the moment of area in tension. But here, this is in the form of a T, and my neutral axis depth, depending on where the neutral axis is going to lie. If the neutral axis is going to lie in the web region, the compression zone, the portion of the concrete which is in compression comprises of in this manner. Okay, you can split that portion into 3 rectangles. This is only for our convenience. Okay, this is only for our convenience for calculation purposes. So if suppose the neutral axis is actually coinciding with the bottom of the flange, neutral axis is coinciding with the bottom of the flange, then what is going to be your area in compression? It's simply flange area. Please, some of you, I think, is not muted. Please mute. So if the neutral axis is coinciding with the bottom of the flange, or if the neutral axis is falling within the flange, then also it's going to be simply one rectangle. And only when the neutral axis falls within the web region, it comprises of this flange portion and a portion of the web. And that can be divided for our convenience of calculations in this manner. So now, whenever this T-section analysis comes, the thing that you need to ask yourself is where this neutral axis is going to lie. Is it going to lie in the flange region, or is it going to lie in the web region, or is it going to lie at the bottom of the flange, matching with the bottom of the flange? So your initial this one equation to determine the neutral axis is going to depend on that. So first thing is we need to have a some kind of check to ensure in which region this neutral axis is going to lie. So for that the first preliminary check that you can make is assuming the neutral axis to coincide with the bottom of the flange. You start assuming the neutral axis to coincide with the bottom of the flange, then only the flange region is going to be in compression. So the area of the region which is in compression is going to be just the flange portion. Okay, and then you take moment of that about the bottom of the flange, and also you take moment of the steel in the sense you need to convert into equivalent concrete. M times modular ratio times the area of steel, and there is no M minus 1 here. Please note that M minus 1 is not there because we are assuming below neutral axis whatever concrete is there, that is ineffective. So M minus 1 is there, just M times area of steel. So that is going to be your equivalent concrete. That we need to take moment of that with respect to the neutral axis. Okay, so let's see these calculations, then you will understand better. But before that, I hope all of you have taken note of these section details as well as these material properties. Have you taken? So now let's go and see the calculations, whatever I explained to you. Let's see the calculations corresponding to that. Assuming the neutral axis is coinciding with the bottom of the flange, then the area which is going to be in compression is just the area of the flange, which is 1200 multiplied by 100, and this centroid of that area with respect to the bottom, because we are assuming neutral axis to coincide with the bottom of the flange, centroid is going to lie at a distance 100 divided by 50 mm. It's going to be 50 mm. Okay, and what about the moment of area of the tension, moment of tension, area and tension? It's going to be 2000 multiplied by 13 and multiplied by this distance. This distance is 600 minus 100. So let's calculate those two moments. So moment of flange compression area, whatever I explained to you, 1200 multiplied by 100 multiplied by 50, you calculate that moment. And moment of tension steel, modular ratio times area of steel multiplied by the distance of the steel, distance of centroid of steel from the neutral axis. Here we are assuming neutral axis to coincide with the bottom of the flange. So that distance is going to be 600 minus 100. So you got moment of tension steel, you got moment of compression, the area in compression you got, assuming neutral axis to be at the bottom of the flange. Please note that we are doing some check here, and which moment is more here? You see 6000 multiplied by 1000, is it more or 13,000, or here 13 multiplied by 10 power 6? Which one is more? Moment of tension is more. Moment of tension steel is more. That means actually these two moments should compensate each other. These two moments should be equal to each other. Okay. So moment of tension steel is more. In the preliminary check, assuming the neutral axis, the neutral axis to be at the bottom of the flange, the moment of tension steel is more, whereas moment of the compression area is less. So we need to include some more area. We need to include some more area in the compression side. Then only this moment, this value 6,000 multiplied by 1,000 is going to come closer to this value. We need to add some more portion. So by doing this check, it is very clear that the neutral axis is not going to be lying in the flange, or it's not going to be lying at, in line with the bottom of the flange, but it's going to lie in the web region. So to do this, to get the confidence on that, we are doing this check. Okay, so that is what is mentioned here. To find whether the neutral axis lies inside the flange or below it, the moments of area, moments of area about the bottom of flange may be taken. So whatever I explained to you, okay? And since the moment of tensile steel is more than the moment of flange compression area, the neutral axis falls below the flange, and the beam behaves as a true beam, true T-beam. Is it clear? This is a preliminary check. So now it's we are very sure that the neutral axis is going to fall within the web. So let the neutral axis be like this, which is in the web region. So the area in compression is going to be made up of this rectangle, and the middle one. And what is the dimensions of this rectangle? You see, what is the dimension of this rectangle? You can easily find, because width of the web is 300 and width of the flange is 1200. So if you want this dimension, this triangle dimension, it's going to be 1200 minus 300 divided by 2. So this width is going to be 1200 minus 300 divided by 2. What about this dimension? It's going to be matching with the flange thickness, which is 100 mm. And what about this dimensions? This rectangle is same as this rectangle. This rectangle is similar to this rectangle. So same thing is applicable here. What about the middle one? Middle one, the width of this rectangle, this dimension. This dimension is going to be 300 because it's already given in the problem statement. And what about the other dimension? This dimension, I don't know. At this stage, it's neutral axis, n. N is that value. Okay? So what is the total area in compression now? 1200 minus 300 divided by 2 multiplied by 100, and 2 times of that because 2 rectangles are there, plus area of this 300 multiplied by n. N I'm going to calculate. But I'm not interested in the area. I'm interested in the moment of area and compression. That you can easily find. How do you get moment? So whatever you agreed, if you have any questions with the explanation I gave you, please raise it. Otherwise, if you agree with whatever explanation I gave you, the area of this rectangle, what is its distance, or this centroid of this rectangle with respect to the neutral axis? What is its distance? What is the distance of that? That distance is going to be n minus, if n is the neutral axis depth, n minus 50. 50 is the thickness of this flange. So, sorry, 100 is the thickness of this flange. So, centroid is going to lie from the top at a distance 50 mm. So, the distance of this centroid of this rectangle from the neutral axis is going to be n minus 50. So, using that, you can find the moment of this area, this compression area, this compression area. What about this centroid of this area? This total depth is n, so centroid is going to lie at n divided by 2 or 0.5 n. So that is how you get the moment of this total compression with respect to the neutral axis. And what about the moment of the tension with respect to the neutral axis? That is similar to whatever explanation, or that is going to be similar to this one, except that instead of 600 minus 100, it's going to be 600 minus n. Okay, so we equate both those things and try to find the neutral axis. We are going to get a quadratic equation as we have seen in the earlier examples, and we are going to solve this quadratic equation. Okay, and before we proceed to the next slide, I want to show you one more thing here. You can see here stress distribution for the area in compression is shown. Only the stress distribution for the area in compression alone is shown here. The top fiber stress in the top fiber, it is sigma CBC prime, and stress at the neutral axis is going to be 0. I am also interested in the stress at the junction, this junction between the flange and the web. What is the stress at that level? That is denoted with sigma CBC prime, sigma CBC 1 prime, okay, or sigma prime CBC 1. Some notation, that one. So how do I get this stress at this junction? How do I get this stress at this junction? Stress is varying linearly. Stress is varying linearly from 0 here to sigma CBC prime over a depth of the neutral axis n, over a depth of n. Stress is varying from 0 to this value. And what is the distance of this? What is the distance of this point? What is the distance of this junction from the neutral axis? You can easily find that. What is that distance going to be? If the neutral axis depth is n, that junction is going to be at a distance n minus 100. Okay, so you know this is linear distribution, so you can easily find this point is at a distance from the this neutral axis. The point, the junction between the flange and web is at a distance n minus 100. So you can easily find what is this value. That stress is important for us. That stress is important for us when we are actually taking the moments and other things, okay, or calculating the capacities and other things. Okay, so any questions here? So let me proceed and show you the numerical calculations. So with whatever explanation I gave you here, moment of area in compression, this one, this portion is written 300 multiplied by n divided by 2, 1200 minus 300 is all I explained to you. Okay, multiplied by 100, n minus, I told 50, instead of that it is written here as n minus 100 divided by 2, and that is equated to the moment of area in tension. And solve this quadratic equation and get the neutral axis depth. And once you get the neutral axis depth, you find the stress at the junction between the flange and web or at the bottom of the flange. It is here, it is written as at the bottom of the flange, whatever stress value, it is expressed in terms of sigma CBC prime. Any questions here? Is it clear? So now if it is clear, now we got the neutral axis depth. What we need to do? We need to find the, this is, now we got the neutral axis depth, so we know this is the area which is in compression. So but we are also interested in the lever arm. To calculate the moment capacity, we require to know the lever arm. Lever arm is nothing but the distance from the centroid of the area in compression to the centroid of the area in tension. So I need to find, to get the lever arm, I need to find where the resultant compressive force is going to act. What is the location of the point where resultant compressive force is going to act with respect to the neutral axis? That location is important. Then only I can find the lever arm. So now the next step is to calculate where the location of resultant compressive force is going to lie. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to take the moment of the total compression with respect to the neutral axis, moment of total compression with respect to the neutral axis, and then we are going to divide that moment with compressive force. Yesterday I mentioned to you how to get this location where the resultant compressive force is going to act. You take the moment of the compressive force and divide it with the compressive force. Moment divided by force is going to give you lever arm. So that is the kind of the logic we are going to follow here. Okay. So now I have this shape, two rectangles and of similar size or same size and another rectangle. For convenience, what we can do is we can consider this entire thing as one rectangle. So you can see here this figure is showing that. You take this, from this you subtract these two rectangles, you are going to get this shape. You take this rectangle 1200 by neutral axis depth. Neutral axis depth is 145.8. So you take a rectangle 1200 by 145.8, and from that you subtract these two rectangles. Then that is going to be same as this one. So it's easy to work with this kind of this one. Everything is rectangle here. Okay, everything is rectangle. Only thing is we are going to add and we are going to subtract. And now this kind of idealization is easy for us to get the moments. So now we also calculated what is the stress. What is the stress at the junction of the flange and web? At this location, what is the stress value? Based on that, we are going to draw the stress diagrams for these two idealized rectangles. Okay. For this one, stress is going to be 0 here, and stress is going to be sigma CBC prime, and stress is going to be varying linearly over a depth of neutral axis, which is 145.8. What about the bottom two rectangles? Stress is going to be 0 at this edge, and stress at this edge is going to be sigma CBC prime, sorry, sigma CBC 1 prime. This value is going to be sigma CBC 1 prime. And what is that sigma CBC 1 prime? That is expressed in terms of sigma CBC prime. It is 0.314 sigma CBC prime. Stress here is 0.314 sigma CBC prime. And stress is 0 at this bottom. And stress is varying linearly. So if I want to get the total compression, here it is denoted with C1. Total compression over this area multiplied by, that is 1200 multiplied by 145.8 multiplied by half sigma CBC prime. You agree with that, C1? And what about C2? C2 is 450 multiplied by 45.8 multiplied by half multiplied by 0.314 sigma CBC prime. Please note that minus sign is there because we need to subtract these two. So total compression is going to be this, whatever compression you got from this area, From that, you subtract these two compression areas, then you get the total compression. Is it clear? And what about the moment of the compression, total compression? How do you get total moment of total compression? It's going to be 1200 multiplied by 145.8 multiplied by half sigma CBC prime, that is going to be total compressive force, multiplied by lever arm. Lever arm is going to be half of this, 145.8 divided by 2. And that is going to be moment resulting from C1. What about the moments resulting from C2? Those moments are going to be 450 multiplied by 45.8 multiplied by half multiplied by 0.314 sigma CBC prime multiplied by the lever arm. Lever arm here is going to be 45.8 divided by 2. So you are going to get the moment because of C2. So sum up all these moments, you are going to get total moment. You got the total compressive force. Total moment divided by total compressive force is going to give you the lever arm. Any questions? So those details are given here. With whatever explanation I gave you, you just cross check these numerical values. Okay, you cross check these numerical values and you get you can calculate lever arm distance. Once you calculate lever arm distance, you are equipped with the equations to calculate the stresses in steel and stresses in stress in steel and also stress in the extreme fiber of the concrete. Stress in compression in the extreme fiber of the concrete. These two equations you already know. Any questions here? So the major component of understanding or something new between the whatever we discussed so far and what you are learning in today's class is this one. Splitting the T portion into this kind of thing, idealization. Okay, and then trying to find the total compressive force and also moment of the total compressive force. From that you can get the lever arm. Any questions here? So what is the moment that is applied on this T section? It is 150,000 Newton meter. So that is 150,000 is moment is applied here, 150,000. And it is in Newton meter, but all the calculations we are doing in mm. So Newton meter is converted into Newton millimeter, and then stress in steel is calculated, stress in concrete is calculated. And please make a note of this stress in steel. Please make a note of all these details. You can go through it at a later stage. If you understood my explanation clearly, just recall that whatever explanation I gave you and then go through this calculations. You should be able to figure out all this. Okay. So please take a note of this. Sigma ST prime, that is stress in steel, 134.72. And sigma CBC prime, 3.326 Newton per mm square. And what is permissible stress in steel? Permissible stress in steel for Fe250, it is 140 Newton per mm square. So 134.72 is less than that. So steel has not reached its permissible limit. And what is permissible stress in concrete? 7 Newton per mm square. So concrete also has not reached its permissible limit when you applied a moment of 150,000 Newton meter. Any questions here? If no questions, let's you see here we did here it is written as exact analysis. And please note that what is happening is because of this small portion, rectangle, okay, because of this small portion of compression in the web region, all these complications and calculations coming. So what if I ignore this portion? If I just take only the flange portion to be in compression and try to find or do the rest of the calculations, what difference it makes? What difference it makes in the stress calculations? So that's what is shown here in the rest of the calculations, and here approximate analysis. And before that, we got the stresses due to the applied moment of 150,000 kilonewton, 150,000 Newton meter, stresses in steel and concrete. And also now we have all the information. We have the permissible stress in concrete, we have the permissible stress in steel, and we got the lever arm, everything. We can even calculate what is the moment carrying capacity of it, this section. What is the moment of resistance of this section? So that is, those calculations are shown here. So this is nothing but 80, here it is written as, you read this one, moment of resistance from point of view of compression in concrete, MC, and this 81,008, that is nothing but the area in compression. That is nothing but your area in compression, okay, multiplied by this one, sigma CBC. This is sigma CBC, 7 Newton per mm square. This is a JD, lever arm distance. So you got the moment capacity from compression of concrete point of view, and similarly you calculate moment of resistance from steel point of view, area of steel multiplied by permissible stress in steel. If it is Fe 250, it is 140 Newton per mm square multiplied by the lever arm, and you got MC and MT, whichever is the least, that is going to be your moment of resistance of the section. And two types of steels are tested here, or two types of steels are considered. Fe 250, what is the moment MT value, and what is the MT value if it is Fe 415? And depending on which value which steel you take, your moment of resistance is going to be different, because MT value is going to be different. Okay. And but in this case, it turns out that in both cases, you can see here, you can take a note of it. 3.1 something is there, raised to the power 10 power 8. Okay, anyway, you compare this number with this number. So this number is smaller. So your moment of resistance is going to be dictated by the steel if you use Fe 250. And what about if I use Fe 415? This is the number I got, and still this number is less than this one. So even if I use 415 steel, Fe 415, steel is going to reach its permissible limit first. Okay, in both cases, you have seen earlier a rectangular section. Depending on the type of steel used, sometimes the concrete is reaching its permissible limit first, sometimes steel is reaching its permissible limit first. But for this example, T section, steel is the one which is dictating the moment of resistance. Usually, I'm telling you, usually for T sections, the steel is going to dictate the moment carrying capacity. Okay. And now we have discussed enough on this. Let's see also the approximate analysis. What is the approximate analysis? I'm saying ignore this small portion and just to take compression as the total flange area. That is what this. So this entire thing is approximated. This entire thing is approximated as, what is this dimension? 1200. In the approximate analysis, we are seeing approximate analysis. Okay, so this dimension is 1200 and this depth is 145.8. So that is this rectangle. and I want to remove this entire portion. I don't want to have two rectangles, this rectangle separate, this rectangle separate. I want to, because I am ignoring this portion. So I am subtracting this entire thing. So what is this? What is this dimension? 45, 45.8. Here it is not missing that one. For this depth is 45.8. This is 1200. So I'm going to take this one and subtract this one from this the lower one from the top one. C1 minus C2 is going to be only the portion of the flange. Okay. So the rest, if you understood this one, and if you already stress distribution details or the explanation I already gave you, stress is varying from 0 to sigma CBC prime here, and stress is varying from 0 to sigma CBC 1 prime, which is 0.314 sigma CBC prime at this stage. So with that information, you can actually calculate everything. Okay, or here it is recalculate, because now the neutral axis depth is going to be different. That is calculated here, because we are ignoring this portion. Okay, is it clear? Neutral axis depth is calculated ignoring or assuming the neutral axis to be at this junction, or assuming the neutral axis, or ignoring this portion, ignoring the contribution of this portion, small rectangular portion which is in the web, ignoring that neutral axis depth is. Or you do one thing, you please take a note of this equation. Please take a note of this equation quickly. 1200 multiplied by 100 multiplied by n minus 100 divided by 2 is equal to 13 multiplied by 2000 multiplied by 600 minus n. Take a note of this equation quickly. Okay, so now let's compare that equation with this equation. You compare that equation with this equation, then you will understand the difference. Neutral axis depth is calculated ignoring the small portion in the web for the approximate analysis. Okay, and then once you get the neutral axis depth and the stress at the bottom of the flange, please note that when we consider even this portion, what is the relation between sigma CBC 1 prime and sigma CBC prime? It is 0.314. And now what is the, by ignoring it, we are getting 0.324 sigma CBC prime. And rest of the calculations, based on whatever explanation I gave you, rest of the moments and the lever arm, everything you can go through it. It's all self-explanatory. And also, you can calculate the stresses for the applied moment of 150 Newton meter, 150,000 Newton meter, and you see the stresses, stress in the concrete and stress in the steel. And what are the stress values that I already told you to make a note of it. Stress values, when you consider that small portion in the web region, you compare the stress values there and this one, these two values. The error is very, very small. Okay, so you can ignore that portion in the web region if you want. If you want exact analysis, you can do the exact analysis. And as a general thumb rule, please see what we did is we idealized the given T shape into, we idealized the given T shape into rectangles and other things. Instead of that, some guideline or thumb rule is there. Lever arm, in general, lever arm for T beams may be estimated as larger of 0.9 times effective depth, or D, small d, effective depth minus half of the flange depth. So instead of calculate, suppose you are writing GATE exam or something like that. Okay, not for the our regular exams. Okay, if you are writing GATE at that time, if you want to find quickly, you want to check some value out of 4 choices that are given, which one is correct, you can make use of this kind of thing. You don't need to go through those entire calculation details and get the lever. Okay, you can also calculate stresses using this lever. You can also calculate stresses using this lever and also moment of resistance using this lever. And the moment of resistance using this approximate lever. Okay, and what is that moment value compared to the value you got from exact analysis? That is what is mentioned. An accuracy of 1.2% difference. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to stop here. Any questions? Professor Amlan, you want to add something here?
See, it is nice to know approximate methods, because in design offices, you can do very quick calculations based on these approximate methods. That's why it is, you have to just stay familiar, and by using engineering judgment, you can use the approximate methods. Okay.
Okay, in tomorrow's class, we'll complete this doubly reinforced section, reinforcement placed in compression as well as tension side. Okay. Meanwhile, you please attempt the homework problems or assignment problems. Okay. Any questions? Let me take attendance. Okay, thank you. Some question is there, Professor Amlan. What factors affect the accuracy of approximate method? That whatever portion of the web region you are missing, that is what is going to affect. Okay.
See, it depends upon the situation. You have to have a feel where the approximate method will give close enough results. Sometimes approximate methods can give not so close, and in that case, approximate methods may not be used.
Okay, thank you very much.